The headline exploded across social media before midnight billionaire tech mogul takes stranger home on Christmas Eve. But long before the world started talking, one man stepped into a snowstorm and made a decision that no amount of money could explain. Would you open your door to a shivering child digging through trash on Christmas Eve? Drop a comment below because what happens next might change how you see compassion forever. It started on a night New York City couldn't stop snowing. Cole Harrington, the kind of man whose name appeared in Forbes lists and finance reports, stood alone in his Upper East Side townhouse, staring at the glow of Christmas lights bleeding through the storm. It was his first Christmas without Eleanor, his wife. The air still carried traces of her cinnamon-orange peel and the faintest echo of laughter. Upstairs, his 5-year-old daughter, Maya, was supposed to be asleep. She wasn't. No one slept easily in that house anymore. Cole checked his phone out of habit, a reflex built by years of emergencies that involved billions, never emotions. But the alert flashing this time wasn't from his company. It was from his doorbell camera. Motion detected rear alley. He tapped the screen. A small figure crouched near the garbage bins behind the gate, wrapped in a coat several sizes too big. Snow fell hard, sticking to her hair. She dug through a black trash bag and pulled out something, a half-eaten sandwich, frozen stiff. Cole squinted, breath catching. A child, maybe 6, maybe 7. Alone in a storm that could kill a grown man in an hour. The father in him reacted before the billionaire could calculate the risk. He threw on his coat, ignoring the warning ping from his home security system. "Maya," he called softly. "Stay upstairs, honey. I'll be right back." The alley wind bit at his face as he pushed through the gate. "Hey," he called out, voice calm but steady. "You shouldn't be out here." The girl froze, clutching the sandwich like a secret. "I'm not stealing," she whispered, voice hoarse. "I know," Cole said, "but you're freezing. Let me help." She took a step back, eyes flicking toward the street. Cole stopped moving, hands open. "My name's Cole," he said. "I live right there." He nodded toward the townhouse. "What's your name, Lena?" Her lips trembled as she spoke. "I'm fine." He looked at her bare hands, red raw. Shaking, she wasn't fine. "Come inside," he said. "Just for a minute, it's warm. You can have something hot to drink." She hesitated, staring at him like every adult before him had been a trap. The snow thickened, swirling between them. Then a small voice came from behind the glass door upstairs. Maya's voice, faint but clear. "Daddy, is she okay?" Lena's head snapped up at the sound. Another child. The fear in her eyes shifted into something fragile, curiosity, maybe hope. Cole took that moment. "You can trust me," he said quietly. "I have a daughter, too. You can meet her. Just come in and warm up." After a long pause, Lena nodded once. Inside, warmth wrapped around them like a heavy blanket. Cole's security chief, Rafael Ortiz, appeared instantly. "Sir, do you want me to call this in?" "Not yet," Cole said, guiding Lena toward the kitchen. "She's a child, not a threat." Rafael frowned but stood down. Cole opened a cupboard, grabbed a mug, and filled it with cocoa. The smell filled the room, chocolate and nostalgia. "Here," he said. "Careful, it's hot." Lena held the mug with both hands, almost reverently. "It smells real." Maya crept closer, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "I like marshmallows," she said. "Do you? I don't know," Lena answered. "Then you can try one," Maya said, placing a single white marshmallow in Lena's mug. The two girls exchanged the smallest smile, the first fragile thread of connection. Cole watched them, something shifting deep in his chest. For the first time in a year, the house didn't feel empty. Then his phone buzzed again, a message from Quinn Aldridge, his board chair. "Cole, there's a video of you outside. It's going viral. Call me now." He ignored it. For once, the world could wait. "Do you have parents?" Maya asked innocently. Lena's eyes flickered. "I did," she said softly, "but not anymore." Cole felt the weight of that silence. He knew that tone. He'd heard it in his own daughter's voice too many nights to count. He crouched down, meeting Lena's eyes. "You're safe here tonight," he said. "That's a promise." Another buzz, this time from an unknown number. "If you have taken a minor into your home, please contact City Services immediately." Raphael glanced at the screen. "Sir, they're already tracking this." Cole exhaled. Let them. The storm outside screamed against the windows. Inside, two children sat by the fire, sipping cocoa under the twinkle of Christmas lights. Cole looked from Maya to Lena and back again. It didn't feel like a rescue. It felt like a beginning he hadn't seen coming. He spoke softly, almost to himself, but loud enough for them to hear. "Lena," he said, "would you like to spend Christmas with us? As family?" Maya looked up, eyes wide. Raphael froze mid-step. Lena blinked, unsure she'd heard right. "You mean here, yes?" "Here," Cole said. "With us." Outside, the storm kept howling, but in that small kitchen time seemed to hold its breath. A billionaire who'd lost everything had just risked his reputation, his privacy, and his peace, all for a child who had nothing left to lose. That was the moment before the knock came at the door, the one that would change everything. If you think you know what happens next, you might want to think again. The house felt warmer than it had in a year, yet somehow colder too. Cole Harrington stood in the kitchen doorway, watching the two girls at the table, his daughter Maya and the stranger named Lena, each with a mug of cocoa between their hands. The Christmas lights reflected off the glass painting soft gold over their faces. For a moment he let himself believe this was just another quiet winter night. But then the questions began pressing in loud and sharp as the wind against the windows. Rafael Ortiz leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Sir, we should call this in," he said in a low voice. "City Services has a protocol for minors found without guardians. The media's already circling after that video. We don't need another headline tonight." Cole rubbed the bridge of his nose. "She's exhausted, Raphael. Look at her. She needs rest before more questions. I understand that, but not tonight." Cole cut him off. "We'll call first thing in the morning." Raphael hesitated. "Understood, sir. But make no mistake, people are watching." Cole didn't respond. He turned his focus back to Lena, who had begun tracing her fingertip along the rim of her mug like she was memorizing it. Maya, sitting opposite her, tilted her head. "Are you warm now?" she asked. Lena nodded. "It's like my hands forgot what warm feels like." Maya smiled, proud to be hosting someone smaller, someone who needed her. "You can sleep in the room across from mine," she said. "It's got fairy lights and a window that makes the snow look like glitter." Cole crouched next to them. "That's kind of you, Maya. But let's get her cleaned up first, okay?" He turned to Lena. "You can take a bath if you want. Fresh towels are in the bathroom down the hall." The child's shoulders tensed. "I don't want to mess anything up," she murmured. "Or take something that's not mine." "You're not taking anything," Cole said softly. "You're borrowing warmth. That's what houses are for." Raphael disappeared to the foyer, speaking into his earpiece in Spanish, updating security quietly. Cole ignored the hum of business, returning to his world, and led Lena upstairs. The townhouse, elegant but lived in, carried traces of Eleanor everywhere, her scent on the linen, her handwriting on a sticky note that still clung to the fridge. "Remember to laugh." He hadn't, not really, since she died. Steam curled from the bathroom door as Lena soaked in the tub. When she emerged wrapped in a towel that looked 3 sizes too big, Maya had already placed pajamas folded neatly on the bed. They were covered in tiny stars. Mom said stars mean hope, Maya explained. You can borrow them until we find your own." Cole watched silent as Lena hesitated before touching the fabric. It was the smallest gesture, but something about it split him wide open. He excused himself and went to the kitchen, dialing on his phone as snow tapped softly against the window. "Raphael," he said, "is the pharmacy still open on 84th Barely? Why, she's running a low fever. I'll grab children's meds and some soup." He paused. "Anything else we might need for the night?" Raphael sighed. "Maybe patience." Cole half smiled. "Copy that." He pulled on his coat and stepped back into the storm. The city was ghostly at this hour. White streets, hollow sounds, cab lights blurred like floating embers. At the pharmacy, the clerk recognized him immediately. "Mr. Harrington." "You're out in this," thought Billionaires sent assistants for midnight errands. Cole forced a polite grin. "Some things you can't outsource." When he returned, the house smelled faintly of chamomile and chocolate. Maya had fallen asleep on the couch beside Lena, both curled beneath the same blanket, the glow of the fireplace washing them in amber. The sight rooted him in place. He stood there for a long moment, every muscle in his body unwinding. For the first time, the mansion didn't feel like a mausoleum. Raphael appeared again, quiet but firm. Sir City Services texted back, "They'll send someone in the morning. I told them the child is safe." Cole nodded. "Thank you." Also, Mrs. Donnelly called from next door. She said she saw the video and wants to know if you're running some kind of adoption charity now. Raphael's tone carried dry humor. Cole exhaled. "Tell her I'm just trying to be a decent human being." Raphael smirked. "That'll really confuse her." Later that night, Cole checked in on the girls. Maya slept soundly for once, her doll tucked under one arm. Lena, though, was awake, eyes open in the dim light, staring at the ceiling as if waiting for it to vanish. When she noticed him at the doorway, she whispered, "Is it okay if I stay awake a bit?" "Sometimes it's hard." "Yeah," he said quietly. "It's okay. Happens to me, too." She turned on her side. "When my mom was still here, she said the world gets quieter when you talk less and listen more. But sometimes it just feels empty." Cole sat on the edge of the bed. "It's not empty. It's waiting." "For what?" "For someone brave enough to fill it again." She didn't answer, but her eyelids grew heavy. When she finally fell asleep, one hand still clutched the small silver button. She carried the one with a snowflake engraved on it. Cole brushed a strand of hair from her forehead and whispered, "You're safe now." Downstairs, the clock struck midnight. He poured himself a cup of coffee, then hesitated, reaching instead for Eleanor's old cocoa tin. Inside the lid, her handwriting still whispered, "More salt than you think." "Trust me." He made a fresh batch, though it wasn't for him. It was for the house to make it feel alive again. As he stood by the window phone, buzzing once more with messages he didn't want to read, Cole finally sent one text to Quinn Aldridge, "Bored can wait. Family can't." He set the phone aside, staring at the snow piling against the glass. For years he'd been surrounded by everything money could buy, yet tonight, holding the silence of two sleeping children upstairs, he realized he'd never been richer. What he didn't know, what no one knew yet, was that this small act of kindness was already rippling far beyond his home. The footage of him carrying Lena through the storm was trending under a single tag, "Yaw, the Christmas Billionaire." By morning, his life and hers would never look the same. Morning light slipped through the tall windows of the Harrington townhouse, touching the marble floors with the soft hue of winter gold. The city outside was just waking up, its noise still muffled under layers of snow. Inside, the world was still almost sacred. Cole Harrington stood by the window, coffee in hand, watching as his daughter, Maya, and the little girl named Lena ate pancakes in the kitchen. Their laughter, quiet and shy, filled corners of the house that had been silent for far too long. But peace never lasted in Cole's world. His phone vibrated endlessly on the counter messages from his office news alerts calls from the board. The video from the night before had gone viral. A billionaire in designer boots rescuing a homeless child in a snowstorm was the kind of story the media devoured. Some called it heartwarming. Others called it a PR stunt. Everyone had an opinion. Rafael Ortiz, the head of security, placed a newspaper on the island counter. The front page read, "Christmas Miracle" or "Media Play. Harrington's act sparks debate." Cole scanned the photo him carrying. Lena in his arms, snowflakes caught in his hair, her tiny face pressed against his coat. He looked at it for a long time, then folded the paper neatly. "They always find a headline," he said. "You're trending in 42 countries," Rafael replied. "The PR team's already calling this the most humanizing moment of your career." Cole shot him a look. "I wasn't performing, I know," Rafael said, "but they don't." Before Cole could answer, the doorbell rang. Rafael checked the monitor. "City Services, a Ms. Rivera." Cole exhaled slowly. "Let her in." Moments later, Ms. Rivera stepped into the living room. She was in her 40s, bundled in a thick wool coat, her notepad and ID badge visible even before she introduced herself. "Good morning, Mr. Harrington," she said, her tone professional but not unkind. "Thank you for calling us. I know you've had quite a night." Cole nodded. "I thought it would be better to talk in person. She's safe warm, and she's had food." "That's good," Rivera replied, glancing toward the kitchen where Lena sat beside Maya. "May I?" He gestured for her to go ahead. Rivera approached the girls gently. "Hi there, sweetheart. My name's Carmen." "What's yours, Lena?" the girl said softly. "And how are you feeling this morning?" "Better," Rivera smiled. "I'm glad. You did a very brave thing last night, surviving that storm. Do you remember how you got here?" Lena looked toward Cole before answering. "I was looking for food," she said. "He found me." Rivera's gaze softened. "He did a good thing, didn't he?" Lena nodded. Maya, sitting beside her, whispered proudly, "My daddy helps people." The social worker's eyes flicked toward Cole. "That's not something I hear from many children," she said quietly. They moved to the study to talk. Rivera opened her file, the sound of paper crisp in the stillness. "She matches the description of a child reported missing 3 weeks ago. Mother deceased. No known relatives. She's been surviving near the East River shelters. She's lucky you found her when you did." "Lucky isn't the word I'd use," Cole said. "She was freezing. No child should live like that." "I agree," Rivera said. "But now comes the hard part. Legally, she's under the state's care until placement is arranged. I'll need to file an emergency temporary custody order so she can stay here for now. That means background checks, home inspection, and a few interviews." Cole leaned back in his chair. "Do what you need to do. I don't want her sent back to the streets." "She won't be," Rivera said, closing her folder. "Not tonight." When she left, Cole returned to the kitchen. Lena was sitting quietly, her fork untouched. "Are they taking me away?" she asked, voice trembling. He crouched down beside her. "Not if I can help it," he said. "You're safe here for now. That's a promise." Her eyes searched his face for something, truth, maybe hope. "People say that a lot," she murmured. "And then they go away." Cole's chest tightened. "I'm not people, Lena. I'm Cole." She studied him for a moment longer, then nodded, as if deciding to believe him at least for now. By afternoon, the story had reached every news outlet in the country. The front steps of the townhouse were lined with reporters and cameras. Rafael and his team formed a perimeter, keeping the chaos at bay. Inside, Cole sat at the dining table, laptop, open face hard with focus. He had canceled all meetings. Quinn Aldridge, chairman of Harrington Capital, had called 6 times. When Cole finally answered, Quinn's voice was sharp. "Cole, what in God's name are you doing? The board is panicking. Investors think you're unstable." "I'm taking care of a child, Quinn. That's not instability, it's decency." "This isn't about decency," Quinn snapped. "It's optics. Your face is all over the news, and if this turns into a legal issue, it affects the company. You need to release a statement, say it was a misunderstanding or charity work gone wrong." Cole's silence was colder than the snow outside. "You want me to lie? I want you to protect your brand," Quinn Cole said quietly. "Maybe you should protect your soul." He ended the call. Later that night, Lena fell asleep on the couch with Maya beside her, both girls buried under a quilt. Cole sat across the room, the fire reflecting in his eyes. He thought about the board, the press, the investors, all of it. None of it mattered when he looked at those 2 small faces. Raphael entered with 2 mugs of coffee. "You're making enemies fast," he said. "Let them line up," Cole replied. Raphael hesitated before adding, "You know, this isn't just about a moment of kindness. This is going to change everything." Cole looked at him, then at the girls. "That's the point." By morning, Miss Rivera returned with a folder and a faint smile. "Mr. Harrington, the emergency custody has been approved. Lena can stay with you temporarily." Cole took the papers, his throat tight. "Thank you. She's been through a lot," Rivera added. "Children like her need consistency, not promises that fade." "I know," Cole said. "I intend to keep mine." As Rivera left, the first news truck pulled away from the curb. The world outside still saw a headline, "The Christmas Billionaire." But inside that house where the smell of pancakes lingered and 2 little girls laughed over spilled syrup, Cole Harrington felt something deeper taking root. He didn't know it yet, but this was more than charity. It was redemption, and the storm was only beginning. The following weeks tested every promise Cole Harrington had ever made to his daughter, to himself, and now to the small girl who had stumbled into his life on a freezing Christmas Eve. The snow outside had melted into the gray slush of January, but inside the townhouse warmth had begun to take root. Lena's laughter filled the spaces where silence used to echo. Still beneath that fragile peace storms were gathering. The public attention that had once painted Cole as a hero now began to turn. Headlines shifted tone. "Billionaire's rescue or custody gamble," read one. "Corporate savior or media manipulator," asked another. Even the talk shows debated him, some applauding his compassion, others calling it reckless. Every camera outside his home was a reminder that kindness had a price. At Harrington Capital, tension simmered. The boardroom, once a space of predictable profit discussions, now felt like a courtroom. Quinn Aldridge, the chairman, leaned forward, voice clipped. "Cole, your little act of charity has become a liability. Investors are spooked. We're down 6 points since the custody announcement." Cole sat still, fingers interlaced on the table. "She's a child, Quinn, not a headline." "You think I care about points? You should," Quinn snapped. "You run a billion-dollar empire. You don't get to play foster dad on live TV while shareholders panic." Cole rose slowly, buttoning his suit jacket. "Then let them find someone else to run it for a while." The room fell silent. "You're stepping down?" Quinn asked, stunned. "I'm taking a leave," Cole corrected. "I built this company to buy freedom, not to become its prisoner." And with that, he walked out. Outside the office, the city air felt sharp, clean. For the first time in years, Cole wasn't rushing toward a meeting. He was heading home to something real. That weekend, he took Maya and Lena to the community center in Harlem where Eleanor used to volunteer. The place was humble, but filled with life children drawing parents, serving food, laughter echoing down the halls. Cole carried boxes of supplies through the snow. When the volunteers recognized him, a few phones discreetly came out. He ignored them. "We're not here for photos," he said softly. "We're here to help." Lena watched him closely as he knelt beside a little boy struggling with a broken toy car. "Try the axle," Cole suggested, adjusting the piece until it clicked back in place. The boy grinned. Lena's eyes followed every move. Later, she tugged at his sleeve. "You used to do this with your real job too, right? Fixing things." Cole smiled faintly. "Something like that. But people are harder to fix than machines." That night back at home, Lena seemed quieter than usual. After dinner, while Maya colored at the table, Cole found her staring out the window, her breath fogging the glass. "You okay, kiddo?" he asked. She hesitated. "You said I could stay, but what if they make me leave the lady with the folder, Ms. Rivera? She said things change." Cole crouched beside her. "Do you want to stay?" Lena nodded, eyes glistening. "Then we'll fight for it," he said. "I don't break promises." She looked up. "My mom used to say that too." There was no answer for that, just the sound of wind scraping across the window panes. 2 weeks later, the fight began in earnest. Ms. Rivera came with new forms, new questions, new procedures. Cole passed every inspection, but bureaucracy moved slower than compassion. Each visit reminded Lena that her safety was still temporary. The fear returned to her eyes like a shadow that refused to leave. One evening, while Cole worked in his home office, Raphael burst in, breathless. "She's gone," he said. Cole froze. "Who, Lena?" "Maya said she went outside to find you. She thought you left." They tore through the house, through the street, into the biting wind. The snow had started again, heavy and blinding. Cole's voice echoed down the block. "Lena." Minutes stretched into hours. Then, near the gates of Central Park, he spotted a small figure kneeling beside the frozen pond, clutching the silver button she always carried. He ran to her, dropped to his knees, and wrapped his coat around her trembling frame. "I thought you went away," she whispered through chattering teeth. "Everyone goes away." He held her tighter. "Not me. Not ever." Back at home, he sat beside her by the fire until she stopped shaking. He didn't say another word. He didn't need to. The next morning, something shifted between them. Trust, fragile but real, had replaced the fear. She started to hum while brushing her teeth to dance when Maya played music in the kitchen. She even began calling Cole Dad once accidentally while asking for a snack. When she realized it, she froze wide-eyed. Cole just smiled. "That's one title I don't mind keeping." By February, the city thawed, and with it so did Cole's grief. He reopened the greenhouse on the townhouse roof, a project Eleanor had loved but abandoned after her illness. The glass walls were cracked, the plants long dead. But with Raphael's help, Cole repaired it day by day. When it was finally done, he called the girls upstairs. "This was your mom's favorite place," he told Maya. "She used to say that everything deserves a second chance." Lena stepped inside, eyes wide. "It smells like spring." "It's your place too now," Cole said. "We'll call it the Winter Garden of Second Chances." They planted tulips that day, their laughter echoing against the glass ceiling. For the first time since Christmas, Cole felt something close to peace. Later that night, after tucking the girls into bed, he sat by the window with a glass of wine, watching the city lights shimmer. He thought about the boardroom, the headlines, the chaos. None of it mattered anymore. What mattered was the promise he had made to keep Lena safe, to help her believe in family again, to rebuild what life had broken. When Maya's soft footsteps padded across the floor, he turned. She was carrying her blanket, sleepy-eyed. "Daddy," she said, "can Lena be my sister forever?" He didn't answer right away. He just lifted her into his lap and held her close. "That's the plan, sweetheart," he said. "Forever sounds about right. And in the silence that followed as snow began to fall again, outside, Cole realized that keeping a promise had cost him his comfort, his reputation, maybe even his empire, but it had given him something far greater. It had given him a reason to believe again. The day of the hearing came dressed in gray skies and cold air that bit at the edges of the courthouse steps. Cole Harrington arrived early, his coat collar turned up against the wind, one hand resting lightly on Lena's shoulder. She was nervous, though she tried to hide it the way children do by pretending they weren't. Maya held her other hand, small fingers intertwined. Together they climbed the stone stairs that seemed taller than usual that morning. Inside, the family court was hushed, its walls lined with old portraits and the faint scent of coffee and paper. Reporters waited outside, but the guards kept them back. Cole had made it clear this was not a story. It was a promise about to be sealed. Miss Rivera met them at the entrance to the hearing room. She smiled at the girls, her tone warm but steady. "You both ready?" she asked. Lena nodded, clutching the small silver button she'd kept since that first night in the snow. Maya reached over and squeezed her hand. Cole gave Miss Rivera a grateful nod. "Thanks for fighting for us." She smiled. "You didn't make it hard. Most people talk about helping kids like her. You just did it." They took their seats before the judge, a kind-eyed woman with gray hair tied back neatly. She looked over her glasses at the file in front of her, then at Cole. "Mr. Harrington, I've read your petition and Ms. Rivera's report," she said. "Quite an unusual case." "Yes, Your Honor," Cole replied. "But sometimes life doesn't follow protocol." The judge's lips lifted slightly. "That it doesn't." She turned her gaze toward Lena. "And you must be the brave young lady who changed all the headlines this winter." Lena's cheeks flushed. "I didn't mean to," she said softly. "I just wanted somewhere warm." "Well," the judge said, "I think you found more than warmth." Ms. Rivera presented her report, speaking clearly for the record. "Mr. Harrington has demonstrated not only financial stability but emotional commitment. The child has bonded with both him and his biological daughter. In my professional opinion, this placement serves the child's best interest." Cole listened, but his focus was on Lena's small nervous movements, how she twisted the hem of her dress, how she peeked at him for reassurance every few seconds. When it was his turn to speak, he stood. "I don't know the right language for courtrooms." He began, his voice calm but thick with emotion. "I know about building companies and losing people you love. I know about control and risk and all the ways life teaches you to protect yourself. But this," he looked toward Lena, "this taught me something none of that ever did. That love isn't found in grand gestures. It's found in the quiet moments, sharing cocoa on a freezing night, tucking someone in, and hearing them finally sleep without fear. I can't undo where she's been, but I can make sure she never goes through it alone again. That's my promise." For a moment, no one spoke. Even the court stenographer paused before catching up to the silence. Then the judge nodded slowly. "That was quite a statement, Mr. Harrington. You may sit." A brief recess followed while the paperwork was reviewed. Cole stepped outside into the hallway where Ms. Rivera joined him. "You know," she said quietly, "a relative came forward last week. A distant aunt from upstate. But after hearing everything she said, she couldn't offer what you could Stability Care family. She withdrew her claim this morning." Cole looked at her, taken aback. "She gave up custody. She said the girl already found where she belongs." When the hearing resumed, the decision took only a few minutes. The judge's gavel came down softly, almost like a blessing. "The court hereby grants full and legal adoption of Lena Brooks to Mr. Cole Harrington. Effective immediately." Maya squealed before anyone could stop her jumping up from her seat. "She's my sister," she shouted, and the courtroom broke into laughter. Even the judge smiled. Lena turned to Cole, disbelief flickering across her face. "That means you're really my dad now." He knelt beside her. "Signed in ink," he said. "Forever." Her eyes filled with tears, but this time they weren't the kind that burned. They were light, pure, unguarded. She threw her arms around his neck and he held her close, his throat tightening as Maya wrapped around them both. When they stepped outside, the gray sky had cracked open just enough for sunlight to spill through. Reporters called his name, but Cole didn't answer. He lifted Lena into his arms, Maya walking beside them, and they made their way down the courthouse steps, three people who'd all been broken in different ways now, whole in the only one that mattered. Instead of heading straight home, Cole took them to the Met. It had been Eleanor's favorite place in the city. They walked through the quiet halls past marble statues and oil paintings that stretched across the centuries. In front of a portrait of a mother and child, Lena stopped. "She looks like you," she said to Cole, the way she's holding him. Cole smiled. Maybe that's what love looks like in every language. They ended their day on the museum steps as the sun began to set. The city glowed gold and pink, a winter miracle of its own. Lena leaned her head against his shoulder, and Maya hummed a tune beside them, content. Later that night, back at the townhouse, Cole opened the rooftop greenhouse. The air was crisp but alive with the smell of damp soil and new beginnings. The tulips they'd planted weeks ago had sprouted small, stubborn shoots, pushing through the dirt despite the cold. Lena touched one gently. "They're growing," she whispered. "Just like us," Cole said. He reached into his pocket and unfolded a worn envelope he'd found in Eleanor's desk earlier that day. Her handwriting, delicate and looping, read, "If love ever knocks again, open the door, no matter who stands there." He smiled through the ache in his chest. "You were right," he whispered. Lena looked up at him, puzzled. Who was right? Someone who knew what second chances looked like. As the city lights shimmered below and the stars began to break through the dark, the three of them stood together in the warm glow of the greenhouse. Outside, the world still called him the Christmas billionaire. Inside, he was just Dad, ordinary, flawed, and finally at peace. And when Lena laughed softly and said, "Merry late Christmas, Dad," he knew the story wasn't ending at all. It was just beginning, written not in headlines or fortune, but in the ink of forever. When the snow finally melted from the streets of New York, it left behind more than puddles, it left a story. A story that began with a billionaire who had everything except the one thing that mattered most: connection. Cole Harrington's life had been built on logic, wealth, and precision. But that all changed the moment he stepped into the cold and found a hungry little girl searching for hope inside a trash bin. What started as an impulse of compassion became a journey of redemption, one that turned a lonely house into a home, and a grieving man into a father again. Through Lena, Cole discovered that love is not a business transaction. It's an act of courage. Through Maya, he remembered that healing often begins when we let someone new in. And through the quiet courage of choosing kindness over image, he found the kind of wealth that no stock or fortune could ever buy. The world saw headlines and hashtags, but inside that townhouse what really happened was something far greater, a transformation of the human heart. Lena's story wasn't just about survival. It was about what happens when someone dares to see a child not as a problem to fix, but as a person to love. She came to that house with nothing but fear and a small silver button from her mother's coat. She left it years later with a family, a future, and a name written in ink. If there's one lesson this story leaves us with, it's this: compassion is contagious. One simple choice to stop, to care, to open the door can change more lives than we'll ever realize. We live in a world that often rewards ambition more than empathy, but stories like Cole's remind us that kindness is never wasted. Maybe you can't rescue every lost soul. Maybe you can't rewrite every ending. But you can show up once for someone, and that can be enough to rewrite theirs. So, as you close this story, think about what door in your own life you might open next. Maybe it's forgiveness. Maybe it's a second chance. Maybe it's reaching out to someone who needs a reminder that they still matter. If this story touched your heart, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us keep creating meaningful stories that celebrate humanity, kindness, and hope. Join our community, share the message, and be part of the change one story, one heart at a time.